you still found an angle of approach and you still came out on top, which is amazing. So that's great.
Thank you. Yeah.
Um, I know it might seem random that I'm reaching out and I wanted to talk with you.
It's
Um,
always welcome.
yeah, no, I always wanted to talk to you, and a while ago I even said, man, I really want to talk to Kid because I really wanted to know like why you left, and I just like any other cop in the PD, as you know, what comes goes within a couple days, 24 to 48 hours. Everyone tends to move on, so Uh, and it's not that I moved on, it's that just I kind of got sidetracked, and that's on me. And
That's okay.
I'm sorry about that. I do hope that your time away has been better than your time in the PD.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm doing all right. I'm staying very busy. I'm doing the law stuff now, and I had like 4 things on the docket, and I got 5 more things to post, so I'm not completely overwhelmed or anything. But yeah, no, I've been enjoying it. It's a little scary initially because basically going from a life that I've known for so long, and something that I always felt really passionate about, to like the unknown and whether
Sure.
or not I was actually going to be okay. um
Did
but I
you?
think it was ultimately the right choice for me.
Yeah, no, that's good. Did you have a plan when you got out, or did you just kind of do it?
I was not intending to be a lawyer when I left.
Sure.
That was kind of something that happened probably like a couple weeks to a month after I quit. I kind of decided, because I kept hearing about people talking about like dumb stuff that like officers were doing, and that their rights are being violated. And so I kind of thought, well, maybe I should try to get my bar license and see if I can help people. It might be interesting, coming from a police background as well. But no, I didn't really have a plan. I knew I wanted to be a farmer, which I am. I'm farming.
Yeah, farming court cases, fucking a.
Yeah, but I I just was kind of like, I'm just gonna hope for the best.
No, I get that. That's. I mean, I would go as far as to say commendable too.
There are a lot of really nice people who were very welcomed me very much with like open arms. Like Finley immediately was like, here you can have a job at my mechanic shop. Then like Ellie was helping me with farming, and then now with the the legal stuff, there's I was surprised at how many people were like so kind um after I left. Especially because I was an officer, and so many people don't like cops.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean that's good. I'm really happy to hear that. I uh I wanted to talk to you because I always wanted to know the why. And I always knew you as another officer who reminded me a lot of me in my policing. And to be honest, I don't know a lot of people anymore who I think I resonate that way with.
Yeah.
Um so I knew that there had to be something.
Um
And the main
it
reason, sorry, go ahead. I
no,
apologize.
keep going. Keep going. What was the main reason?
The main reason I'm asking is because the other day I submitted my 2 weeks notice at the PD. July 25th is my last day.
Are you doing okay?
Um, Not really, but I think a lot is not doing okay. This is actually a 30-minute like story, so I'm not gonna take up all of it. I will say this much: I have been in the ICU, not me, well, actually, me personally, and the visitation of others extensively. The last, like, let's say 2 weeks. A lot.
Is it people in the PD or?
Richard Dark, my dad, he's not doing well.
What happened to Dark?
He had some people, I guess, chasing him or something happen. There was something that he was going through that I wish I could have been around to help him with. Sent me a text saying I'm sorry, essentially. And the next time I heard from him, they found him in the Mirror Park Lake with a double lung puncture.
Oh my God.
And it appeared that he was robbed. And it was hard because I had to learn from Dr. Kizu that he was without oxygen for minimum 5 minutes, which is more than enough to have permanent brain damage. And he's still in the ICU, and I don't know how he's doing. Before dark, I was kidnapped by Hydra. And with all intent, I'm not going to say I get it, but I don't hold a grudge against them. There was Hydra beef between the PD and beef with the PD to Hydra.
Mm-hmm.
And I went off duty, and within 3 seconds of walking out the door, I had a potential applicant come up to me, and he was asking about his application, what's going on. And immediately, within seconds, I was circled by Hydra. And I told him, I was like, listen, you guys been asking me for 5 hours. Give me 2 minutes and I'm all yours. And they said, nope. In you go. So in I went, and I was, we were driving, and they were talking a lot about the PD and how a lot of this is Dan Sheisty's fault and a bunch of other things. Now, I had been off duty for a few days because I had been in the ICU with a few other people recently, and I've had a lot of other problems going on that took priority over my job. And
Yeah.
I came back to work and went off duty to go meet some family, and I got kidnapped. And I was trying to explain to them, I'm like, listen, I haven't been around. Like, I don't know what this is about. Genuinely. And they kept saying, stuff along the lines of, well, if you were on duty, you would have been there anyway. Essentially tried to prefab my guilt. So moving forward, whole thing about it, that this is a message. They said that, we're past the point of conversating. I tried to be a bridge to communicate between them and the PD. And I cut off the person I was talking to, and I said, can I please call somebody and say goodbye? I said, because I know where this is going, and you do too. Because I really thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
And they fed me to a mountain lion because apparently the best version of myself was when I was a park ranger.
Jesus.
According to them. Hence the cool scar on my neck. Look at me. So cool now.
I noticed that.
Yeah. But I told everybody the same thing I'll tell you. It wasn't the fact that I was kidnapped that scared me. And it wasn't the fact that I directly knew what was coming. It was the thought that I was about to lose my life over a war that I didn't even know about.
You didn't have any part of.
Yeah, they threw a lot of we's around, not a lot of I's. And I even told them, I said, there's a lot of we in
Also,
this, not a lot of I.
Why is there a war between the PD and anybody? Why was the PD treating this like a war?
Typical PD fashion, right? People come in with their game face. It's, it's time to crack down on these dirty gangs, and I'm assuming it got into people's heads, and the turnout was people were, people met their maker. But I was the only one out of, I think, 6 people who were kidnapped in the PD who didn't catch a bullet to the head. And I feel like I'm fortunate for that. But yeah, I had taken a few days off after that because I was like, I'm scared to go to work. I'm scared to pull someone over. I'm scared to, like, I'm fighting a war that I'm completely uneducated in. I offered to be the voice for these people. And I think they know as well as I do, and as well as most people, that if there's anyone in the PD who was actually willing to give them a fighting chance to end this whatever conflict was going on, I am such a reasonable person for that. And if my kindness was met with what it was met with, again, reminder over something I still don't even really fully understand. The thought of knowing that my legacy, my death, was gonna be what? A photo of me on the whiteboard for a couple days. Here in memory of. And not for nothing, but let's be honest, Kit. Rooker never got a funeral. Aziz never got a funeral.
Aziz never got a funeral?
Never got a funeral. And I really looked at the situation and I said, it just something doesn't feel right about this. Knowing that I could die for a cause that I have no involvement in. Fight for every part of my well-being to prove a group wrong. Just to be part of another national statistic about how the PD fucked up. And not even for anyone I work with. Ben Shiesty, who I've seen maybe twice in the last 7 months, was the name that they brought up. I genuinely don't even actually work side by side with him. So that all happened. Took a few days off. Richard Darko's in the ICU. I take an extra day off, and I said, yeah, after a week, I said, I'm ready to go back. I got on duty, dispatch 225, 1041. Immediately get a call down to the hospital. 2 people dead. Unrelated, 2 homicides. So now I'm working a case where I tried to walk away from the hospital to be right back where I didn't want to be, and that was the ICU. I had to walk by my dad's bed 3 times. I had to talk to victims of people that knew the 2 that passed away. Another call came through to go up north. I start driving. Slacks goes, why don't you stay at the hospital and grab victim statements? And I spoke to this one guy, and he was freaking out. He's like, I really hope my friend's okay. I said, don't worry, they're getting treatment, everything's good. Everything's fine. I'm now an hour on duty after a week, dealing with 2 homicides. This guy comes in, freaks out about his friend, one of the victims from the incident that happened up north. And while I'm talking to him, Slacks gets on radio and goes, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And Cadet got on radio and goes, one of the victims from the most recent 911 from up north passed away. And it was Chastity, our old receptionist.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And I'm now looking at this guy, and I couldn't even tell him. I said, I need you to stick around and speak with the doctors. They'll have information for you. I need to step away. And I walked over to the cubby of the cafeteria. Not in the cafeteria, but that little, like, the little entryway before you get into the CMC cafeteria. And I sat on the ground, and I bawled my eyes out for like 5 minutes.
Of course.
I was so overwhelmed. And the first time out of, God, 4 years of my career, that's the first time I failed to keep it together. It was the first time I ever failed to you know, wear the badge and get the job done and then, deal with my emotions after. And what was even worse was when Slacks got on radio and was like, hey, I need you to lead this. And in my head, I'm going, there's no way I'm leading this. I can't do it. So I festered up. I documented what I had to. And I told everyone, I said, I need to go. I can't do this. I'm 2 hours in and I'm dealing with 3 homicides. And I've now had to see my dad, who's being intubated, can't breathe on his own, may not even know who I am anymore, with 3 dead people in 3 rooms beside him. I can't do this. And when I walk back to the PD to put up my gear, I get a call from a doctor, Dr. Bordier. And she said to me, hey, everything okay? I said, not really. She goes, one of those days? I said, yeah. She goes, well, they're alive, but I'm calling to inform you that Tessa Lamb is in the ICU right now, and
Oh
you're
my
one of her
God.
emergency contacts. This caught up so drastically for me that after I went and said my piece with Tessa, hoping she would pull through, thank God she did. But I waited till after the meeting and I pulled Sky aside and I said, Sky, this is what's going on. And I told her, I said, my family's in shambles right now. My father may never know me again. I went through an incredibly traumatic experience with a gang over something I knew nothing about. I said, there's so much that is different. And I said, since I got out of the ICU, I don't think that I'm the same person. I said, I sat on a hospital floor and I cried. And I submitted my 2 weeks notice. I said, I don't think I can do this anymore. And I formally want to step away on good terms, because I know if I continue doing this, I haven't smiled on duty in God knows how long. I haven't looked at anyone in the face to be chippy or cheery. I can't be me anymore. And it's not by choice. It's that I am having a hard time finding who I was. And to be honest with you, Kit, I don't look at what happened with Hydra as just a traumatic experience, but I looked at it as a second chance at life. It's hard not to, considering if I left there with a bullet, I don't think I'd be having this conversation right now, and I don't think I would have had the pleasure to talk about this with anybody. So the fact that I even walked away from that was lucky in itself. And I have been having a lot of great conversations with people who have walked away. And you were very high on my list of people to talk to, but I don't know if that police department, respectfully speaking, deserves any of the old guard. I don't think anyone's ever going to know the unity of, Connor Stubble and Air One leading everybody to an apprehension. Jackie Snow and Copper in a race. No one's going to know that unity. And I don't think that there's that leadership that brings people together. And I will give a little defense to the PD and say that I do agree that they were dealt probably a bad hand with this structure. And I think they're trying to make the most of it. But I don't think any new hire is going to have any of that. They're going to have a shell of what we had the pleasure of experiencing. And what's even crazier is I spoke with someone else. Do you remember Tails by chance?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I spoke with Tails the other day. And she told me something that I don't want to say disgusted me, but I don't think there's another word for it. She got pulled over and she asked the officer, "Why did you apply to the PD? Why did you why did you decide to join the PD? What's your drive? What's your passion?" You know what the cadet told her?
Hmm.
"I applied."
That's it?
That's it.
Just I applied?
I applied. That was this person's drive. And to think that, not for nothing, I'm pretty sure I sat in on this dude's interview. But
Who was it?
um Fritz.
I don't know him. I don't know. I
He's
feel
got
like
a
I don't know half the PD anymore, and I've only been gone for a couple months.
yeah. Fritz is he's got a big heart and a big personality. I actually really like Fritz, but when I ask somebody what their passion is, I want something about them. I want something. I don't want to hear that, my goal is to wear the badge with honor. I don't want to hear that I sign my name on paper. I want to know you, right? But I think Tails brought up a really good point and said that none of the new officers, respectfully, are going to have that personal experience that any of us had the pleasure of experiencing. And I think that that's something that's really hard to own with. And I do think that place has its own problems, but the problems in the PD are not why I'm leaving. I think about the way our fallen have been treated, and I see the way that people treat the police department. And I have a family and people that I love that I don't want to lose. And my family is the only thing I have going for me,
I know what you mean.
right? The job is secondary. And if the job is there, just like all of us, we use it as an excuse to shelter emotions a lot of the times, put differences aside just to, it was something else to think about. But every time I go to work, all I think about is my family. And I don't think having the job is gonna allow me to move on with my life. So I'm walking away. And I want to talk to people who also walked away, because I feel like people like yourself really get to, people who really know me, um or people who maybe have run into me while an officer, who know how I am. I want to talk to those people, because I feel like you get it.
Yeah. You know, when I put in my 2 weeks notice, I did the same thing. I talked to a lot of people. Um, kind of took the opportunity to reach out to a lot of old friends, friends from SDSO. Because there's a lot of people from SDSO. They didn't come back to the force. Um, like talking to Willie and Owen, and I had a really good conversation with Willie. He might be, I don't see him around too often anymore, but if you see him, he might be a good person to speak to. But, you know, kind of feels like, I'm sure you feel this with the Rangers, but it's kind of hard to go back when you had something so kind of wonderful. SDSO was very special, and it was the people that made it special. And I don't know, me, when I talked to Willie, it's kind of like maybe I'm just, I'm too old now. I've been at this too long, but I don't think I had the drive for it anymore. like I would see some of these newer officers or cadets and they were just hungry. You know, they were very eager. They wanted to get all the arrests. They wanted to be in all the pursuits and do all the things. And, you know, I don't know if you feel the same way, but being around for a while now is kind of just, I don't know, maybe resting on my laurels a little bit at the end. I was kind of just going through the motions, but I didn't have the love of it anymore. And you
I
know,
can agree.
after everything that happened with Lenny, I think it was a few different things. So, you know, I was promoted to senior officer and I was told that I was being promoted because I thought differently than the other senior officers. I had a different approach to things. And
That was my promotion too, funny enough.
I always felt like I felt like in a way it kind of set me up to fail a little bit with it because I never considered it a merit-based promotion. I always kind of I called myself like the diversity promotion, you know, the diversity senior officer. Like I was promoted cuz I'm nice. And when you go into something like that with like that kind of mindset, it's kind of hard to feel any kind of authority over that position. Um I didn't feel like I belonged in that position. And then everything happened with Lenny and I would just kind of felt left alone, you know, and nothing felt I mean everything felt different after that.
Nothing felt concrete.
And I tried my best to keep getting on duty every day, but you know, I thought maybe stepping down from senior would help and just getting back to like the basics. But then seeing, you know, them promoting people who were complaining about the way I was policing and, you know, were making complaints about me and just kind of feeling very much left on my own and that they value this kind of police work and they don't value the kind of police work that I do. It just kind of felt at the end like I
Wow.
don't belong here anymore and this isn't what they want. So I left.
It's truly amazing to think that your reasons for promotion and your feelings almost directly line up with mine in every way. Um, I was the first person, and I was told this, to be offered a senior position in the UPD since the restructure. And Captain Turner had talked to me, and he asked me a bunch of questions. You were offered captain, would you take it? You were offered this, would you take it? I said no. I said rank belongs to people who deserve to be in those positions. Rank is not a seniority thing. Rank is not a recognition. People belong to be in ranks that they can handle. And I don't think that your time should be associated with that. He pulled me into a room a week later and promoted me to senior and said, congratulations on being the first senior. And I took that with a grain of salt. He said I was a people person and that I am everything that the PD stands for. And I thought that was special. And I felt like that meant something.
Of course.
When the Lenny situation happened, I got in a lot of trouble. And I don't know if you even know about it. You might, you may not. Do you know what happened on the day all that happened?
Remind me?
I had pulled a gun on an officer.
I I think I heard something about it, but I don't know that I know all the details.
I'll spare the boring stuff because number one, uh, you were a victim in that, and I don't want to have to re-explain things that you know probably better than I do. And two, I have found the forgiveness for most people. But the long story short, when Lenny was shot down, there were 4 cops on duty. And only 3 of us were able to manage. It was, or well, actually, it was 5 cops. Only 4 of us were able to manage. Bell was managing front. Me and Decker were told to not lose our eye on Lenny at all. Sure thing. Had my gun out the whole time. The incident where you were shot, moved over to the hospital, stayed with him the whole time. While this was happening, Declan was on scene. And he was walking around Lenny. He was standing next to Lenny. He was walking around him, standing over him, standing above him on the parking garage. And I didn't like what I saw. We then had him moved to the hospital. Here comes Declan. No gun in hand, no nothing. We have the entire city right now on crowd control for what happened with Lenny. Everyone witnessed it, everybody saw it. And Declan came in and started making some comments about me. A couple comments. And I want to be clear, I've found the forgiveness for Declan out of this. But I told him, I said there's a time and place to talk about this. This is not the time or place. Lenny gets treatment, moved MRPD. Decker walks out of the room. Now it's just me and Lenny in the holding cells. And Declan walks in again. And at this point, I didn't pull my gun out. It was always out. It was still out from when I put him in these cells. And Declan asked me, he said, "Why do you have your gun out?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, why is your gun drawn?" And I told him, Declan, respectfully, I currently don't trust you right now. You are close friends with Lenny, and you have hovered this entire scene where we needed people helping. And instead, you have decided to insert yourself with no lack of professionalism. So he called 1042 and cursed me out on radio. And there's an overall reason why I'm telling you this. But a day or 2 goes by. I get a call from Bones. He's sergeant, I believe, at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks to me about it. And I told him flat out, I was like, listen, this is what happened. This is everything. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Was I right? I don't know. I said, but I can tell you right now, I'm not happy with how any of that went. It was traumatic. It was terrible. And 2 to 3 weeks go by. I'll say that again. 2 to 3 weeks go by. And Shift 2 Command wants to have a meeting. McNulty and Bones. And they want to talk about the situation. And I start talking.
Took 2 to 3 weeks?
Oh, it gets better. They dragged me into an interrogation room with Declan to have this conversation. But yes, it was about 2 to 3 weeks. And he puts a recording on and goes, I want to show this to command, blah, 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 blah. So I started explaining my side, and every time I spoke, Declan goes, no, this is what happened. No, that's not what I said. What I said was this. And what I said was this. And then this happened, and blah, 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 blah. So a lot of back and forth, a lot of like getting cut off. And I finally stopped and I looked at Bones. I said, am I being interrogated or am I telling my fucking side of the story? So I tried to recollect what I could. And then Declan would cut me off and say his side of the story. And after a while, it finally ended. And Bones said, you know, hey, Declan, you're good to go. Flop, stay back. And McNulty called me a liar. And I told him, I said, I may be...
What?
Yeah.
McNulty?
McNulty and Bones practically called me a liar. And they told me that to my face. And I said, I am willing to stand on the ground of the ownership of my actions. I said, but under no circumstance am I a fucking liar. I said, if there's anyone in this PD who is willing to take accountability, it is me. And truth be told, kid, I couldn't recall everything that happened that day.
I mean, it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
What do you expect?
So they said that they would talk and kind of go from there. And McNulty said, you know, you should be a politician with the way that you're answering these questions. Because he said, do you think you're wrong? I said, that's not a yes or no. He goes, yes or no. I said, no, that's not a yes or no. That would be disingenuous because from my side of the story, no, I don't think I was wrong. By the way, Declan was handling himself. But when Declan explained his side, when you hear both sides, yeah, it does sound like Declan made some valid points, but things that I wouldn't know unless I was able to know them when they were happening. I said, so yeah, now that I've heard Declan's side, I understand maybe why this is viewed this way. So storm comes through, meeting happens. I opted to not go to the meeting. And I'm sorry I'm telling you this whole story. There's a lot of talking with this, but I promise you there's an actual like point to this, tying into what you told me about being promoted. Because I think it's telling.
Mm-hmm.
But I sat outside the meeting room and Bones came out and was like, hey, Flop, coming to the meeting? And I said, no. I said, I don't even want to stay. I don't want to be in that room right now. He goes, do you want to know your punishment? I said, I'd rather, no, I told him, I think the words I told him were, I wanted to know 2 weeks ago, but sure. I guess now is a better time than never. So I got 3 DAP points for whatever. Don't really care.
Yeah.
And he goes, you going to come to the meeting now? I said, can I ask a question? He goes, yeah, what's up? I said, is Declan going to also be receiving punishment for the things he admitted that he did wrong? It was about a 5-second pause, and Bones goes, I'll talk to McNulty. So I go to the shift 3 meeting. I'll say that again. I'm going to the shift 3 meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Ran by Bones and McNulty. Shift 2.
Yeah.
5 minutes after I received my DAPs, 20 minutes after that interrogation, because it wasn't a conversation, it was an interrogation, Bones gets up in front of everybody and goes, have a big announcement. Declan, go ahead and step on up. We want to congratulate you on your promotion to senior.
That's not a...
You know what was even worse? I had to see this from Bones after he said that. He was eyeballing me, I think, looking for a rise out of me. And it was obvious. And I bit my tongue because I knew they wanted a reaction out of me. And so I moved the fuck on. But after that meeting, about a day later, I spoke with Sky and I told her, I said, Sky, when I was promoted to senior, I was told that I was everything that this vision, the PD was envisioning. I was told that I was sort of what people saw. I was a nice guy, and people saw that to me, and people saw the way that I carried myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I told you this whole story was because I told Sky, I said, I don't ever want to be considered for sergeant. I don't ever want to be considered anything above where I'm at right now. I don't ever want to be interviewed for any promotions moving down the road. The last rank I ever want to stand in this PD is senior. That's as far as I am willing to go, because I don't believe in the current command structure. The way that I was treated made me realize that my initial promotion, because I was what the captains believed was how they viewed the PD, which sounds like very similarly to your reasoning for your promotion. To be treated like that by command made me realize just how far gone we were.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I stayed as long as I did. But I really don't believe in a lot of the command structure. I believe Shift 3 is really good. I believe that they have treated me amazingly. But right after everything, I was having a conversation with my father, and McNulty came outside, and I was telling him that I got dapped. And McNulty stood in, and I looked at him, and I said, McNulty, why don't you tell Rhodes what happened? I mean, you were there. He goes, yeah, Flop's a fucking liar. He lied to us, so we got dapped. And
Oh God.
yeah. Forget hazing. But I am not a liar.
I'm just curious. How did why did they think you lied? Like what was their evidence for you lying?
The fact that I couldn't recall exact quotes from Declan, the fact that I couldn't recall exactly the events that transpired.
How was
And
that lying? I
apparently
mean,
what I told Bones 2-3 weeks prior was different from what I said on recording 2-3 weeks later. Which, hey, shocker, kid. Did you know that if you wait 3 weeks to tell a story, the story's gonna change? Which is why they tell us
of
as
course it will.
which is why they tell us as investigators the first 24 to 48 hours is the most important time to gather evidence. Who could have guessed? So, yeah, they envisioned a lie because command slacked on punishing me. And I have, in the time that I have been still around, have found the forgiveness for Bones. I really have. I still, to this day, would probably tell McNulty to go fuck himself. Respectfully. I don't...
Respectfully, of course.
I... um... Yeah. I... Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just I don't
Fucking
know if
tool.
maybe it's harder for people like us that, we were in the PD a long time ago. We got to see and
Such a shitter.
feel how it used to feel, and it you know, I knew pretty quickly it was different, right? When we got hired back. Like you could feel that it had changed, or that it was going to be different. And I always tried to be optimistic about it and think, well, it's different, but we just got to see like how it all kind of forms, and like different isn't a bad thing. But over, the months, just like kind of continuing to see it sort of slowly, I don't know, go downhill. To just see, I mean, this is sort of like a side point, but I used to love FTOing. a long time ago. I always really enjoyed it. I but I saw how cadets were being trained. I saw the training program and I just kind of wanted to have nothing to do with it. And I talked to Louise Campbell, and she sort of had the exact same feeling towards the cadet program that I did, which I was kind of relieved that I wasn't the only one. But just kind of I don't know, the quality of training and the expectations of police work are so much lower, I think, than they were before. It I don't know, it just sort of felt like difficult to even do the job. It kind of felt like they wanted us to cut corners and not do things what I had considered the right way to do things, and I had a big problem with that.
I still have a big problem with that. And I told command 30 days is not enough time to train somebody. It never was. I look back when I was a solo cadet. You know how long I was a solo cadet, Kit?
Hmm.
About 3 months.
I mean, there were people that were solo cadets for 6 months, almost a year. You know,
Yeah.
it was based on the person, and you weren't made to feel less than if you were a solo cadet for a long time. It was just you were a solo cadet for as long as you needed to be a solo cadet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I understand, like, I understand at the beginning they were just trying to get numbers. I do get that. But that kind of mentality is like continued. And I think at some point, that should have been reined back, and it should have been more focus on quality over quantity, because then you look and our numbers still bad? Like is do you guys still have low numbers, or is it improved at all?
Uh, the short answer is I think it's improved, but a lot of the times we have people in shift 3 right now. Um, it's people from other shifts, which is not a bad thing, but I think that's telling that people
They'd
aren't.
rather be in shift 3.
Yeah.
That's a first.
Yeah. Who could have guessed? Shift 3 up good. Not on my. That wasn't on my bingo card in the last 7 months. I think for as long as I can remember, to be honest. But
Do you remember when there used to be like 40 cops on duty all the time?
I was just thinking about that. I remember when we had an announcement that we were not allowed to clock in at a shift. And if it exceeded 40 people, you would be asked to go off duty. Because we had so many people that had so much passion and so much drive. Could you imagine seeing 40 officers on duty today?
No.
I'm like, if I saw
I
20, I would think something was wrong.
I really don't know what it is. I don't I think I agree with you that I I
Thank you
think
guys.
it
Thank you for all the resubs. Thanks
is
for all the love.
probably, the command structure. I think it's the training program. I don't know. There's just something off.
There's been something in the water for a while, and it sucks because I fought to correct problems, but I think where we are 7 months later is where we should have been 7 months ago. I don't know what it is. Not to mention that every possible corner I've tried to dedicate my time, I have been left in the dust. Exclusively. I have a report. I will never forget this number till the day I die. Report number 297. I've been working on wildlife conservation since December I think 13th. It was one of the first reports in that MDW, or that MDT, excuse me. And I have been fighting to bring back something of the Rangers. My husband started it. Tessa carried the torch, and I wanted there to be some reminiscent to say that I was able to help start something. Because I really felt like that was my big drive. And in 7 months, I asked if I could join the BCSO. I asked for my interest to be pushed. I told Pinzone, I told Lucas Lavender, and I told Cletus Cornwood. And they all said, you are everything that we're looking for in the BCSO. And
Okay.
a couple days later, announcement came out, no new transfers from LSPD for 30 days. And in the 30-day time frame of that, I watched about 10 officers, if not more, from other shifts transfer from LSPD to BCSO, and I took the hint. I don't think they wanted me. And if they did, they sure didn't act like it. And if somebody actually approached me and did this thing called communication, I probably wouldn't be feeling this way. But it's hard to not feel this way because Pinzone just told me the other day that they really wanted me. But they really didn't have a nice way of showing it. I wanted to be up north. I wanted to, that was my dream. That was everything. And even with Bones in his position, I put that difference aside. I found the forgiveness for the guy. But the communication wasn't there. And I fought when fishing made its grand return and we had a guy that was selling fishing poles. I went out, I had a uniform. And I went out there on a boat and I talked to people and I learned all about how fishing worked and I learned sort of the process to it. I wrote out possible laws and regulations. I wrote out each species of fish and animal. I noted the ones that I think may need some kind of regulation. I voted for price tag on fishing. I voted for, we have hooks. We have treble hooks. They're illegal hooks.
Mm-hmm.
They're still legal. And I went as far as to go against my own differences because I don't really like Siobhan. But I told Siobhan, I said, hey, I really want something to come out of this. I really, like, I've been fighting for this. And I just found out the other day from Tessa that animal cruelty isn't even a charge at all anymore.
It's not a charge?
Animal cruelty is gone.
Like after the
Yeah.
the new legislation?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Removed.
Okay, that needs to come back.
That's what I'm saying. And I'm sure it will. But the fact that I don't want to tell too many people because the last thing I need is to watch someone beat up a dog. Because I'll be honest, I'll probably... The only thing not walking on legs will be anybody I see beating up a dog or some shit. Respectfully. But my passion and my drive to do whatever I could to show the proactiveness. I even for a while only patrolled the north and told people if you need me, I'm home. And none of my passion, none of my drive ever went anywhere. And I realize now 7 months later that I'm leaving for personal reasons. But the more I think about it, now that I have the relief to look at this with a clear mind, I'm leaving because the PD never wanted to give me a chance to do anything that I had drives for or passions in. And I don't think there's anything that could change my feelings on that. Even if they...
Sorry.
No, you're good.
One moment.
You are all good. I'm sorry. I'm doing a lot of rambling. You're good.
Hey, can you call Ellie? Okay. Sorry, I'm just in a meeting. Okay, bye.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
But yeah, the long story, very long story short, because we've been here for a minute. The PD had its drives, the PD had its passions, but even I think the sheriff's office was 4 months too late because, like you mentioned with the SCSO, there was a camaraderie, right? There was personality to it, and I don't think the BCSO was needed to fix any problems that we have here right now. But people want something to stand by, and if it's the North, if it's the sheriff outfit, and it's something that gets them on duty, or it's a change of pace that excites them, that's a morale boost all around. People want that. People, because it, even years ago, it didn't matter if you were SCSO, it didn't matter if you were BCSO, PBSO, LSPD. We were still, to some degree, unified. And what uniform we wore gave us that drive, that passion. And I think BCSO earlier would have been that drive and passion that we needed. And we got it too late. And just when I thought that there was a chance that, hey, maybe all my work the last 7 months will come to fruition, it didn't. And have Pinzone tell me the other day when I told him I was leaving that he really wanted me for BCSO, I realized that even if that was true, they're about 2 months too late to offer that position to me. I don't have anything holding me at that place anymore, and I think that that's what I've come to terms with. And I think your reasons for
Yeah.
leaving are my reasons too. So, and I'm sorry that it took so long for me to reach out to you and talk to you.
No, don't apologize.
I feel like I
I
should.
know. I know we're all busy with life. I know I am very busy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll ask again, are you okay? It's a big step. It's okay not to be okay. I know I was terrified when I quit. It's that kind of thought of like, is this gonna work out? I mean, you have your family, you have support, and I know I will be happy to help you with anything that you need, whatever you need. And I'm sure a lot of people would as well. But it's I just I guess I want to stress like it is totally okay to feel however you're feeling right now, and it is very much valid, and however you feel.
I'm disappointed, but I am relieved. And the other day, I had to tell Lucas Lavender, which I that was a hard conversation. I told Lucas, I said, since I submitted my 2 weeks notice, this is the first time that I've smiled. This is the first time that I've actually felt like a weight's been off my shoulders.
And I will say I remember feeling that sense of relief too. Um a lot of times when like you make those kind of decisions and you're like, "Oh, like I regret it," or like, you're just kind of like doubling down on it even though you're not sure if it's the right choice or not. I didn't have those feelings. Like obviously I was scared, totally understandable, but I felt like it was the right choice, and I felt relief when I had made it. And when I left, I mean, you know, uh, my hat is off to you if you can last the 2 weeks, because I did not last the 2 weeks. I think I lasted a little bit under a week before I just said, "All right, I'm done."
Even if I don't last the 2 weeks at 3,500 an hour, I'll find a reason to last the 2 weeks.